I can bring it in 10 minutes if you want. I can go to my place and bring it. Okay. I hope all of you are comfortable. Nice weather. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Govind. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnanadvashalaaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yugapadakamam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaganavanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijanasahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Saganavalyuta Shri Vishakhamvitamscha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Vidinami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatare Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Nice to see so many devotees gathered here. Wasn't expecting such a big group of devotees. Very happy to see all of you. It's a very nice month to be here. The month of Bhakti, also called the month of Damodar. This is the month in which many celebrated pastimes of Lord Krishna took place in Vrindavan. Just the other day, we celebrated Govardhan Puja, probably one of Krishna's most famous pastimes, of lifting the Govardhan hill on the little finger of his left hand. And that was the day after Deepavali. On Deepavali, of course, generally we understand that Lord Ram returned triumphant to Ayodhya after having been in exile for 14 years. But also there's another important event that happened there which is not very well known, which is that the Damodar Leela of Krishna happened on the day of Deepavali. The Damodar Leela is the pastime where Mother Yashoda bound Krishna to the grinding mortar because he was mischievous. So this very well-known and famous pastime happened on that long day. So every evening, as devotees of Krishna, we sing the Damodarastakam prayers. Ashtakam means 8. So generally a poem that has 8 verses in Sanskrit is called Ashtakam. You could have a Dashakam, for example, which has 10 verses. So generally, many of our important prayers have 8 verses, so they're called Ashtakams. So this Damodarastakam has 8 verses that glorify his pastime, wherein Mother Yashoda bound Krishna to the grinding mortar. This is described very nicely in the 10th canto, in the 9th chapter. And it fills devotees with so much happiness to read about this pastime, to hear about it. So, in commemoration of that pastime, devotees sing this song every single day in the month of Bhakti. And they also offer a lamp to Krishna. And as the devotees offer lamp, others chant this Damodarastakam prayers. These prayers have been composed by a great sage, a saint, called Satyavrat Muni. And it appears in the Padma Purana. It is a prayer that is dripping with devotion. And when we read it and understand it, then it will also give us so much joy. I was requested by Srila Krishna Prabhu and Charadeshna Radhika Mataji to speak on the Damodarastakam verse today. How many of you have not chanted the song so far? You have not heard of it or not chanted it or sung it so far? How many? Please raise your hands. Okay, very few. So what we'll do is, we have some copies of this. Has it been distributed? How many of you have copies of this? Very few copies, right? So those of you who know the song, please pass it on to others who have not sung the song before. We shall we sing it then, and then we'll discuss about this song. At the back, the devotees at the back may not have a copy of it. लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानम् नमामीश्वरं सच्चिदानन्दरूपं लसत्कुण्डलं गोकुले व्रजमानम् यशोदाभयोलोकलाद्धवमानं परामृष्टमत्यन्ततो धृत्यगोप्या रुदन्तमो नेत्रयुग्मं मृजन्तं कराम्भोजयुग्मेन सातङ्कनेत्रम् मुहुश्वासकं पत्रिरेखाङ्ककण्ठं स्थितप्रैवदामोदरं भक्तिभक्तम् इति दृक्स्वलीलाभिरानन्दकुण्डे स्वघोषं निमज्जन्तं वाक्यापयन्तम् तद्वेषितज्ञेषु भक्तैर्जितात्मं पुनः प्रेमतस्तं शतावृत्तिमन्दे वरं देव मोक्षं न मोक्षावतिं वा न चान्यं वृणेऽहं वरेषादपीह इदं ते वपुनाथ गोपालबालं सदा मे मनस्य वीरस्तं किमन्ये In this song, we can learn about how wonderful the pastimes of Lord Krishna in Vrindavan are. You see, Vrindavan is a very special place. Not merely because it is a dham. What is a dham? A dham is an abode of the Lord. And there are many abodes of the Lord. The spiritual world in general is called Vaikuntha, Vaikuntha Dham. Vaikuntha means that which is without Kuntha. Kuntha means misery, pain, anxiety, etc. Vaikuntha, that place, that abode which is free from all inebriaties of material existence, which is totally pure, full of love, full of joy, full of eternity, full of knowledge. That is called Vaikuntha Dham. So any place where the Lord resides is called a Dham. Now I'll ask you one question. Is there any place where the Lord does not reside?
No.
What would you say?
No.
What does it mean then? Every place is a Dham. But it's a matter of vision. We don't have that vision to see how the Lord is present in everything. Have you encountered any people who give an excuse for not coming for devotional gatherings or coming to the temple by saying, God is everywhere. Why should I go to the temple? Have you come across such an objection?
Yes.
So are they right?
Yes.
They're right insofar as they say that God is everywhere, yes. But why should I come to the temple? That's the question. It is indeed true that God is everywhere. But the point is, my dear sir, can you actually see Him everywhere? Can you perceive Him and experience Him everywhere? If not, it is just some intellectual, theoretical thing you have heard somewhere in some lecture, or someone saying something that God is everywhere, and just to justify your lack of desire to come to a devotional gathering, you want to give some philosophical sounding excuse. That God is everywhere, therefore I will not come to the temple. God is everywhere. Every place is a dham. But we do not have that realization. We do not have that vision to see the Lord everywhere. And as Srila Prabhupada said one time, if God is everywhere, is He not in the temple? What is your objection to coming to a temple? So when we go to the temple of the Lord, we see the beautiful deity form of the Lord. We render service to the Lord. We associate with His devotees. We hear and chant about Him. And in this way, we develop deeper understanding and knowledge of devotional service. And then we understand more, we start getting faith and conviction about who the Lord is, what it means to be a devotee. What does Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam say? So merely just speaking a little bit of philosophy doesn't really help. So every place is a dham. So one who is in that state of consciousness is always sensing the presence of the Lord everywhere. So therefore a devotee respects everything and everyone. A devotee respects even an ant, does not want to be cruel to an ant even. When we offer respects to each other, we say namaste, don't we? Namaste. Do you know what that means? Namaste or namaskar? Namaha. We start off the Damodarastakam prayers with Namami Ishvaram. Namami. Namami means I offer my obeisances, I offer my respects. Now in India they have Namami Gange. Yes? I offer my respects to Ganga. So Namaha. Namaha means I offer my respects. And actually it means I offer my obeisances to you. Namaha te. Unto you I offer my respects and obeisances. So the Vedic culture is a culture of respect. So we offer our obeisances to someone. Number one, because we see that the Lord is present in that person's heart. So our body is actually like a temple. Isn't it a very amazing reflection? The Lord is present as a super soul, as the Paramatma in our heart. And therefore the Lord is a temple. The body is a temple. So our body is also like a dham. But because we don't realize it, we do need to go to the temple. So then, We offer obeisances to that person because he's also, she also is a part and parcel of Krishna. So we see the connection of everything with Lord Krishna. Everything ultimately emanates of God. So many people claim to be God in India. There's no shortage of God. We believe gods in India, isn't it? The people go and offer their respects to them. But Prabhupada used to say, what kind of God is he? When he has a toothache, he has to run to the dentist. That is not God. So, people offer their respects and call them Bhagavan, call them you are God, and they don't even deny it. One time, when some of Srila Prabhupada's disciples confronted one such so-called God, he protested and said, but I don't say that I am God. But so Prabhupada, these devotees went back to Prabhupada and said, but Prabhupada, he says that he's not God. It's only that his followers call him God. So what can he do? So Prabhupada said, Maunam Sammati Lakshanam. That silence is an indication of your agreement to something. If someone says, Prabhu, you are a fantastic devotee, and you keep quiet, what does it mean? It means that you agree. You're saying, yes, you're right. You need not say, yes, yes, you're right. But just your silence is indicative that you agree with them. Yes? So Prabhupada said that people say you are God, but he should deny it. He should not just keep quiet and then say, well, I'm not claiming I'm God. It's only my followers who are saying it. So Prabhupada was very particular about it. There was a time when some of his disciples started proclaiming him to be an avatar of God, and Prabhupada was so furious that he practically removed them from the institution. He said, you stay away, you're no longer part of this movement because you're changing my philosophy, distorting the philosophy and presenting something that is very damaging. You cannot present a living entity as God. The Guru is a servant of God. The Guru is not God. So Prabhupada said, I have not called my movement International Society for Prabhupada Consciousness. I have called it the International Society for Krishna Consciousness to emphasize that God is Krishna, not some human being. So when people offer their respects to some false God, to some God who's actually not God, who's a human being, they're offering their respects to that Asat, Achit, Nirananda Rupam. But Krishna is not that kind of a God. Namamishwaram Satchidananda Rupam. So he is, his body is fully spiritual, fully transcendental. You all know the Rasamrita verse. Ishvara Paramaha Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarvakaranam. One of the most famous verses that I'm sure we all should remember. How many of you remember this verse, Ishvara Paramaha Krishna? Yes. We should all try to remember this verse because this is one of our most important verses. Ishvara Paramaha Krishna. So the same thing that's mentioned in Ishvara. That's the Lord. Who is the Lord? Parama. He is the supreme controller Krishna. Satchidananda Vigraha. Vigraha also means form. Same as Rupam. So that form of the Lord is the origin of everything. Anadi Adir Govinda. He is the origin of everything, but he doesn't originate from anything. Sometimes people ask, where has God come from? If everything comes from God, where has God come from? And the answer is that God doesn't come from anything. God is. God is eternally existing. And his form is beautiful, spiritual. What does it mean to have a spiritual form? It means that his form never degenerates, it never decays. He doesn't have to use soap and perfumes and deodorants and doesn't have to do anything to protect his body from illness and so on and so forth. His body is completely spiritual, full of bliss. It never grows old, it never grows diseased. It remains ever fresh and youthful, always. This is what it means to be spiritual. So Satyavrat Muni is glorifying at the very outset that Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, who is a Supreme Lord and who is a form of eternity, knowledge and bliss. And he is describing Krishna in Vrindavan Dham as opposed to the rest of Vaikuntha Dham. In Vaikuntha Dham, the Lord is present in his majestic feature of Lord Narayan with 4 arms. And there, everyone worships the Lord in a mood of awe and reverence. You are the Supreme Lord. And then they make offerings to him. They can't be so familiar with him. How many of you have heard of a book called Brihad Bhagavatamrita? Very nice book, written by Sanatana Goswami. And there is a personality that's described there. His name is Gopakumar. Gopakumar has many, many interesting and colorful travels. And in the course of the travels, he's from Govardhan actually. And then he moves up, becomes a king on earth, then he becomes Indra, then he becomes Brahma, and he moves on and on and on. He's given a chance to do all of these things. Finally, he comes to Vaikuntha. But being from Govardhan, where they have a very intense sense of familiarity with Krishna, almost backslapping terms, as we would say. So when he saw the 4-armed form of the Lord, he also spoke in a very familiar way. Hey, Govinda, come here, come here, come here. And everyone said, shh, what are you doing? What are you saying? This is Vaikuntha. You're not supposed to address the Lord like that. Because here the Lord is supposed to be seen with folded hands. And you have to offer him respect. There is love, of course, there is pure love. But that pure love is imbued with a feeling of awe. And because of that awe, there is a certain distance that comes between the devotee and the Lord. Even though there is love, but it is love at a distance. So that bhakti, that prema there becomes a little weak in the estimation of Krishna. So that is the bhakti that goes on in Vaikuntha Dham. And it is pure, undoubtedly, full of joy. But because of that little lack of intimacy, Krishna does not feel complete satisfaction. But in Vrindavan Dham, which is his real home, this is where Krishna, as they say, lets his hair down. This is where he is at his most comfortable level. He is most personal, most intimate. He has no pretensions about anything. He is completely what he wants to be at home. So Vrindavan is Krishna's home. You know, sometimes when there's a very big man like a president or a king or something, in his own house, he has his inner chambers. And then there is a living room. And there are also people whom he meets in some other rooms outside. They just enter the house and sit in those rooms. They're not allowed into the living room. They're not allowed into the inner chambers, certainly. So many people can come and meet that person, the king or the president, in his meeting chambers outside. But they're not allowed into the inner chambers. So Vaikuntha is like the living room or the slightly outer chambers. You can go and meet the Lord there. But when the king or the president goes out, he's a little formal over there. Because there is that distance. He's still conscious of the fact that he is God. Or rather that he's president. So he has to be a little formal. At the same time, he's perhaps not as formal as he would be in his office. But when he's in his inner chambers with his intimate family members, like his son or his wife or his brother, sister, mother, etc., then he's completely free. He has no pretensions that he's the president or the king or something. So similarly, Vaikuntha is like the living room or the drawing room, the meeting room of the Lord. where devotees come, they interact with him. The Lord is very loving, etc. But there is a little gap. In Vrindavan, no gap. And all sorts of things, pastimes take place in Vrindavan, which to a person who is not acquainted with the subtle ways of devotion of Vrindavan will find blasphemous. Will say, you worship you mean to say that your God is punished? Because the general idea of God is that it is God who punishes everyone. But here you're saying it is God who is punished. And you tell them not just punished, he's tied to the grinding mortar and he's threatened with a stick. So my God, what kind of God do you worship? And there is the God who climbs, who eats the remnants of other people's food and all sorts of things. Even creator of the universe, Brahma, is bewildered. When Krishna would go out with the cowherd boys, grazing the cows, and they would sit for their lunch on a picnic in the bank of the Yamuna, and they would share each other's tiffin boxes which their mothers had packed for them from home. And they would steal each other's tiffin. They would take one item from the one boy, and then the other boy would lunch. Why don't take my item, don't take my sweet. And the other boy would pass it to somebody else, and this boy would go running around to grab his sweet back. And sometimes they would do the same to Krishna as well. They would tease Krishna. Sometimes if a boy was taking some buttermilk and his mouth was full, or Krishna's mouth was full of buttermilk, then the other boy or Krishna would come and poke the cheek so that the buttermilk would come out. And they would do things like this, and Brahma was looking at all this and he was saying, this can't be God. So that is why Brahma came and stole away, kidnapped the cowherd boys and the calves, because he thought, this is not possible. How can God be like this? So the idea that God can do things like this may seem very strange to people whose conception of God is that he's an old man because he's the origin of everything, so he must be so old, and he must have very white hair, he must be bent over. And sometimes you see pictures of God, in the Western world, who's holding up the earth and he's very tired and white, long beard. Yes? But that is not what God is. Satchidananda Rupam, Nava Yauvanam Cha. He's always fresh and youthful. Have you ever seen a painting or a picture of Krishna in old age with white hair? Never seen. He's always a youth of 16 to 20 years of age. Even on the earth when he was in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he was approximately 89 or 86, 90 years of age. Even then he was looking just like a youth, a 16 to 20-year-old youth. That is what it means to have a spiritual body. So in Vrindavan, Krishna frolics with his spiritual body, and everybody else also has spiritual bodies there. So there is so much familiarity with it, and Krishna relishes the sweetness of this familiarity. That is why Vrindavan is so special. And the particular pastime which is being glorified by Satyavrat Muni in this song is when Mother Yashoda is feeding Krishna milk. He is very tiny at this stage, he's still a baby. And she's feeding him milk. At the same time, she has kept milk on the stove to boil. And she sees that the stove is boiling over. The milk is boiling over. So all of a sudden she keeps Krishna down on the floor and she rushes to the stove. Now Krishna's hunger has not been satiated yet. So he's very upset. How dare my mother keep me down and go away like this? I'm still hungry. She hasn't even taken my permission. She hasn't even asked me whether I'm okay, whether I'm full or not. She's just simply kept me down and rushed inside. So, well, if she can do this, I can also do something else. So he looks around and he sees there are some pots of yogurt. So he grabs some stick or some stone, whatever is lying around, and he smashes the pots. And there's yogurt strewn all over the room. And And then he realized, oh, now I'm in trouble. What did I do? So then Krishna slips away from the room, realizing that he's in for trouble. And after some time, Mother Yashoda comes back to the room. And she comes back and sees there's no Krishna, but there's broken pots and there's yogurt all over the floor. And it doesn't need Einstein to understand what had happened. She puts two and two together and thinks, yes, so Krishna has done this. This mischievous boy, he has broken the pots yet again. This time I will have to teach him a lesson. So, as mother of Krishna, she's not worshipping Krishna as God. She thinks Krishna is my child. If I don't correct him, what is going to happen to him in future? He will develop all sorts of bad habits, develop a bad character. So I must discipline him now. I must teach him a lesson. So she goes after Krishna. This time she says, I must search after him. So he goes with a stick in her hand. Meanwhile, Krishna, sensing trouble, has fled. But once he goes out, now he sees other adventures in store for him. He goes to the room where there's a grinding mortar, which has been upturned. You know, in the olden days, they didn't have mixer grinders that you plug in and you press the button. But they would have these mortar and pestle. And you would, even today in India, in the villages, you would find it. These huge vessels in which you keep all your spices and other things, grains, etc. And then you smash them with a pestle. So he saw that was overturned and it was there. And from the rafters of the roof, Mother Yashoda had hung pots of yogurt. And the reason it was hung from the pots was to keep it away from Krishna. The gopis would do that all over Vrindavan. That was done because they all knew he was famous as the butter thief. He would come in every home and steal. So in order to prevent Krishna from being able to reach the yogurt, they had hung it from the rafters of the roof. So in order to reach the roof, he somehow or the other climbed on top of that grinding mortar. And he reached out to the roof and he broke that as well. And in this way, the yogurt was all streaming down and lots of monkeys came in. And then he started feeding yogurt to the monkeys who were there. This is the background. This is the scene in which this song is set. And now Mother Yashoda is looking for Krishna coming with a stick behind. And as she comes, what does she see? This is what is being described here. Lasat kundalam gokule bhajamanam. So this Krishna, this Satchidananda Rupam, Krishna, has got sharp-shaped earrings which are swinging to and fro. And Gokule Bhrajamanam, and he's resplendent in Gokul, Vrindavan. Krishna is shining there in all his beauty. Yashoda Bhiya, and he's afraid. Bhiya means fear. So he's afraid of Mother Yashoda. Ulukhalag Dhavamanam, and he's running away from the grinding mortar. Ulukhala is the grinding mortar. Dhavamanam means he's running. Paramrishtamathyanta todrutya gopya, and the gopi, that is Yashoda, is running after him. And finally she manages to catch him. So I'll read the translation of this verse. To the Supreme Lord, whose form is the embodiment of eternal existence, knowledge and bliss, who's sharp an ordinary human being. Because every time we see people go to God, they always have a shopping list with them. You know, they go to God and say, give me this, give me that, give me this, I have this problem, please solve it. So God says, okay, I've had enough of this. Now I'm going to become a child and I'm going to ask my parents and others, give me this, give me this, give me this. So in this way, Krishna takes the form of a child, and then he throws tantrums, he does mischief, he breaks pots, he runs away. His mother has to catch him to punish him. So he's crying. Muhur netra yukmam virjantam. So he's rubbing his eyes You know, children when they cry, they sometimes rub their eyes with both their hands. So he's crying and again rubbing his eyes. That is his condition that Satyavrat Muni is picturing. Karam bhoj yug mena sakankanetram. So with his two lotus hands, he's rubbing his two lotus eyes as he's crying. Bahushvasa kampa trirekhanka kantha. And he's wearing a necklace of pearls on his neck, which is trembling as he's crying and his body is heaving. Sthita Graiva Damodaram Bhakti Vardham. And his belly is bound not with the ropes, but with his mother's pure love. So the word Bhakti Baddham is very important. Baddham means to bind. Now we all know this pastime of how Mother Yashoda eventually succeeded in binding Krishna to the grinding mortar with rope. Initially she tried. She was going after him, and Krishna was very fearful. When he saw the stick, he became even more fearful. So looking at the fearful face of her son, she felt a little compassion and pity. So she dropped the stick so he wouldn't be that afraid. But she thought, nevertheless, he still needs to be punished. So what punishment can I give him? Ah, yes. Let me tie him to this grinding mortar, because this was a partner in his crime. He used this grinding mortar to climb up and then do his mischief. So she brought him, stand here, and she brought some rope, and she tried to tie him. And you all know what happened. What happened? The rope was short by 2 fingers. And then she got some more rope. She tied it to the first rope. And then she again tried to bind Krishna. And again it was 2 fingers too short. Again she got some more rope. And this time also it was 2 fingers too short. And by this time, word had spread on Twitter and Facebook, and all the gopis had gathered together from the village. And they all came there to see the fun. And they saw Mother Yashoda struggling with those ropes trying to bind Krishna. And they were looking on in wonder. How is it that Mother Yashoda is adding all these ropes, and every time the rope is just 2 fingers too short? This is really a wonder. They also could not understand. So they were looking on in amazement. And Mother Yashoda was trying and struggling and struggling. She started perspiring, and the flowers in her hair were falling down. And she was wondering what's happening. Finally, Krishna glanced at her, saw her effort, felt pity on her, and he agreed to be bound. And then suddenly Mother Yashoda thought, yeah, now I'm able to bind him. So she tied him up. So this word Bhakti Baddham is very significant, because we understand that Krishna cannot be bound by anything material. Nothing material can attract him. Not our wealth, not our material intelligence, not our house and cars and our intelligence and our ability, our beauty. Nothing at all from this world can attract him. The only thing that can attract him and bind him is pure love, bhakti. So because Mother Yashoda had pure love for him, therefore she was able to not just control him, but to actually tie him to the grinding mortar. That supreme absolute truth, that supreme controller of all existence, upon whose lotus feet great yogis meditate for thousands of years and perform austerities sitting in the Himalayas and so on. And even then, after many lifetimes, they are not able to obtain him. That Supreme Lord was tied to the grinding mortar by a village lady who didn't perform much austerities, who didn't go to the Himalayas, who was not such a big Pandit or a scholar in the Vedas. But she had one thing that all these big yogis and jnanis didn't have and don't have, and that is sublime pure love for Krishna. So she was able to tie him up because of her love for him. Krishna agreed to be tied because of the love of Mother Yashoda. Therefore, we say It is a love of Mother Yashoda that died Krishna, not merely the ropes. The ropes were merely some kind of instrument. So this way, Sthita Graiva Damodaram Bhakti Baddham. So this is a beautiful point that you can understand here. And Krishna is rubbing his, picture this in your mind. He's looking on fearfully once his mother has caught him and he knows he's going to get a punishment. And he's worried, what punishment am I going to get? So he's afraid. He's standing there crying and rubbing his eyes. Now I have one question to ask you. This is Krishna's pastime, isn't it? What is the meaning of a pastime? Play. Right? So Krishna, we've seen in both these verses now that Krishna is fearful. In the first verse we saw Yashoda Bhiya, that he's afraid of Mother Yashoda. In the second verse we are seeing Rudantam Muhur Netra Yugmam Vijantam, that he's crying and again with his two hands he's rubbing his eyes. Can the Supreme Lord actually be afraid? You know, there is a saying, there is a verse which emphasizes Bhishasmad Vatah Pavate Bhisho Deti Suryaha Bhishasmad Agnischandrascha Mrityu Dhavati Panchaha. The meaning of this verse is that the sun, the moon, they shine out of fear of the Supreme Lord. The wind blows out of fear of the Supreme Lord. Even death personified chases all living entities and performs his duty out of fear of the Supreme Lord. So everyone is afraid of the Supreme Lord. And here we see that Supreme Lord of whom fear personified is afraid, is actually afraid of Mother Yashoda. So is it possible? Now my question to you, please think carefully before answering. My question to you is, was Krishna really afraid? Is it possible that Krishna could be really afraid of Mother Yashoda? Or was he play acting? How many of you think? You have to answer one or the other. Don't not raise your hand. You have to be in one group or the other group. Okay? So one group is those who believe that Krishna was really fearful. He really got afraid. And the second, for those who believe Krishna was only play acting. So how many in the first group who believe Krishna was actually afraid? Raise your hand. Remember, you have to be in one or the other group, okay? Okay. Many hands are only partially raised, which means you're not so confident of your answer. How many in the second group would think it is not possible for the Lord to be afraid? This was his Leela after all. Therefore, he's only play acting. So how many feel that? Okay. 50-50. Which side am I on? What do you think? Huh?
First.
Both sides? No.
No, first. First side.
I have made a choice. I am on the first group.
Yeah,
This is actually a clear statement made by one of our acharyas called Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He says that Krishna is actually afraid. He is not play acting. Because if he's play acting, then there's no fun. He's not experiencing the Vatsalya Bhav. You see, why does Krishna play his pastimes as a child? Because he wants to relish the Vatsalya Ras, the mellow of relationship with his parents. He wants to be a child and he wants to experience that mellow. He wants to give his parents that experience also. So as part of that experience, he has to go through what a normal child goes through. A normal child is scolded by the parents, a normal child is afraid, cries, there's all these things. So Krishna also wants to experience that. He doesn't want to just play act, because then there's no fun. You have to actually experience it really. So Krishna Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, actually becomes afraid. And that is because one of his energies, his Leela Shakti, creates that situation and puts Krishna in that mood of forgetfulness of his own godhood. And that is necessary for Krishna to relish his pastimes. So not only do the devotees in Vrindavan forget that Krishna is God, even Krishna himself forgets that he is God. Because if he remembers he is God all the time, he will not be able to relish these pastimes. So it is necessary that he forgets. So his Leela Shakti does that. So Krishna is able to relish this pastime. But time to time, the Leela Shakti also withdraws and then Krishna's godhood emerges. He lifts Govardhan hill, or he opens his mouth and shows the universe within his mouth, little mouth, to Mother Yashoda. Or he performs extraordinary activities like killing gigantic demons, etc. So yes, Krishna is actually fearful. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, otherwise Queen Kunti, who in her prayers in the 8th chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam would not have been bewildered. Queen Kunti in her prayers says that she is bewildered upon seeing Krishna's fearful state. She very much understands and recognizes the godhood of Krishna. Each of her prayers in the roughly 29 verses in the prayers of Queen Kunti, we can understand that Kunti clearly knows that Krishna is God. Even though he has appeared in the form of her nephew, and Krishna respects Kunti like his own mother because she is his aunt, still Kunti understands that my nephew, my so-called nephew, is actually directly the Supreme Lord. So, on one hand is a clear understanding of Krishna being God. On the other hand is her clear understanding that Krishna was actually afraid. And therefore she gets bewildered. Vimohayati. She says, I'm bewildered. I don't know what to make of your pastime. It is so bewildering to me. Atyanta vidambanam. It is so bewildering that you, the Supreme Lord, are actually afraid. How to reconcile these two things? That Supreme Lord of whom everybody else is fearful, now is fearful of his own mother. These apparent contradictions are what make Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan even more sweet and relishable. You see, otherwise there are so many instances of ordinary children also being punished by their mothers and fathers. What is the big thing there? What is so special about Krishna being punished by Mother Yashoda if he was just another ordinary child? It's because he is God, and it's because he is full of opulence and power, and despite that he acts and plays like an ordinary child. That is what makes the pastimes so much more charming. The more Krishna acts as a normal human being, the more charming his pastimes are. The greater the distance, the gap between Krishna's real position as God and his pastime where he plays some role as some ordinary child, the greater the gap, the greater the charm of that pastime. So the answer is yes, I'm with the category 1 people. Krishna was actually afraid. And this makes his pastimes even sweeter. And in the 3rd verse, then he says, Iti driksva leelabhe anandakunde svaghosham nimajjantam akyapayantam. It is by such pastimes as this that he drowns Svaghosham. Ghosha here indicates the village, Vrindavan. He drowns the residents of Vrindavan in Ananda Kunde, in an ocean or a pond of joy. So when the Brajavasis see all these pastimes, their divine bliss knows no bounds. So I'll read the translation of this verse. By such childhood pastimes as this, he is drowning the inhabitants of Gokula in pools of ecstasy and is revealing to those devotees who are absorbed in knowledge of his supreme majesty and opulence that he is only conquered by devotees whose love is imbued with intimacy and is free from conceptions of awe and reverence. With great love, I again offer my obeisances to Lord Damodar hundreds and hundreds of times. So he understands the difference between the love of Vaikuntha and the love of Vrindavan. And he says here that the love of the residents of Vrindavan is so special that it conquers the Lord in a way that he is not conquered anywhere else. In Vaikuntha also he is conquered by his devotees, but not in the way in which he is conquered here in Vrindavan. So therefore he says, Punaha prematastam shatavritti vande. Hundreds and hundreds of times I offer my obeisances to that Lord Damodar. What is the meaning of the word Damodar, by the way? Dam. The word Dam means rope. And Udar means belly. So one whose belly was tied with a rope is Damodar. So Krishna got the name Damodar after his pastime. So Krishna has innumerable pastimes, and depending on his pastimes, he gets so many names. Krishna has unlimited names. In the next verse, Satyavrat Muni says, Varam Deva Moksham, na moksha vadinva, na chanyam braham vareshagatiha. My dear Lord, you are Varada, Varam Deva Moksham. You can give all sorts of benedictions to everyone, but I don't want any such benediction right up to the point of liberation, moksha. I don't want these benedictions. I don't want any other material boon. I don't even want liberation. I don't even want to go to Vaikuntha and live with Lord Narayan. What do I want then? What does Satyavrat Muni want? Idam te vapurnatha gopala balam sada me manasyavirastam kimanyehi. I want to see this Gopal, Bala Gopal Rupam, this form of Bala Gopal, always Sadame Manasi Avirasta. I always want to see this form of yours as Bala Gopal. Vapuhu means the body. And let this, what need is there for any other benediction? It's such a beautiful thought. You know, it needs some spiritual realization to even know what to ask for. Yes? Suppose, you know that famous question, if God were to appear before you now, what would you ask him? Yes? If you ask a normal person, if God were to appear before you, what would you ask him? In all likelihood, they would say, you know, let my football team win, or give me $1 million, or whatever it may be. But if you don't have knowledge, you don't even know what to ask for. So Satyavrat Muni is truly in knowledge. He says, my dear Lord, I don't want anything of this world. I just want to see your beautiful form. That's all I want. This is the standard of prayer. Therefore, we don't listen to all these songs, bhajans, that are sung by commercial artists who are not devotees of the Lord. Because in these songs, they pray, oh Lord, please give me your darshan. But what will you do if the Lord gives you darshan? If you can't appreciate who He is, if you have no love for Him, if you do not have appreciation for His beauty and His transcendental qualities, what is the use? So for us, our benediction that we seek is only that we may be in Krishna consciousness. We don't want anything else from the Supreme Lord. Idam te mukham bhoja bhaktanta nilair vitam kuntalai snegdha raktaischa gopya. Now he's describing Krishna's beauty, his lotus face. You know, the various parts of Krishna's body are compared to the lotus. Why? Because the lotus is a symbol of beauty, is a symbol of purity. The lotus touches, lives in the water, lives in the mud even, but is untouched by the water or by the mud. So similarly, Krishna is always transcendentally situated, never affected by material nature. He is always pure. The lotus is also a symbol of beauty. So Krishna's beauty is so sublime that we compare it to the lotus, although the comparison is actually inadequate. Because any comparison from the material world is actually inadequate for Krishna. But just to give us some indication, some hint, we have these analogies. Mukha ambhojam. Mouth ambhoj is a lotus. So, he says, O Lord, your lotus face, which is encircled by locks of soft black hair, tinged with red, is kissed again and again by Mother Yashoda, and your lips are reddish like the bimba fruit. May this beautiful vision of your lotus face be ever manifest in my heart. Thousands and thousands of other benedictions are of no use to me. So this is the beautiful prayer. He's visualizing this. His lips are like red like the bimba fruit. And Mother Yashoda is kissing him again and again. And his beautiful face is encircled by locks of soft black hair which are tinged with red. This is how we know what God looks like. It's not some fanciful imagination of some poet sitting somewhere, but these are factual realizations of great devotees who can actually visualize this in their hearts. Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena sandah sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti yam shama sundara vachintya gunasvarupam govindamadipurusham tamaham bhajami. So for those whose eyes are imbued with the ointment of prema, of love for the Lord, they constantly see Him as Shama Sundar within their hearts. So these great devotees like Satyavrat Muni are actually concretely visualizing the Lord. The Srimad Bhagavatam also contains elaborate, detailed descriptions of Krishna's beauty, of His form, His activities, and His associates. This is how we know what God looks like. We refer to authorized descriptions of Krishna. Even in making a deity, there are scriptures that tell you what the proportion of the various limbs of the various deities should be. If it's a deity of Krishna, what should be the proportion of the width of the chest, the length of the arms, how big should the torso be, how should the face be, all the details, how long should the fingers be, everything is described. And what do his eyes look like, etc. When Srila Prabhupada went to the West, and many of the young boys and girls who came to meet him had never heard of Krishna or Ram, Bhagavad Gita, never heard of the Govardhan Leela. So when some of them who were artists started painting pictures of Krishna, one of them painted the picture of the Govardhan Leela with Krishna lifting Govardhan Hill. And this girl imagined, because she was a very new devotee, she didn't know much. So she used her own intelligence to think that probably Krishna has to be very muscular, because otherwise how would he hold up the Govardhan Hill? Right? He's holding up a hill, so she showed it with some rippling muscles or something like that. And then Prabhupada laughed and said, no. Krishna was only 7 years old when he lifted Govardhan Hill. And he's only a tender little boy. So then she changed the painting and she made him a tender boy of 7 years old. Krishna does not need material strength to lift Govardhan. He doesn't even need to put his body or his finger there. He just thinks, let Govardhan rise, and Govardhan will rise. He can float millions of planets and universes in the outer space just by his mere desire. What is one mountain for him? Nothing. So Krishna's form, then Prabhupada actually sat with her and explained, look, this is how Krishna looks. This is how his arms are. This is how his face is. So his eyes, you make them like lotus eyes, like blooming lotus petals, make them like that. This is how his hair is and how it curls around the face. You make it like that. This is how we can have a clear picture. Therefore, one of the greatest assets we have in our movement are these beautiful paintings. So many people become devotees just by looking at those paintings in the BBT books, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, all the pastimes of Krishna. Such beautiful paintings and painted with so much devotion and skill. None of them were professional painters, they were all devotees. And they're exceptionally potent. And they're very nice objects of meditation. So if you have these pictures of Krishna and his pastimes painted by the devotees in your house and in your workplace and in your bag or your purse or whatever it is, whenever you feel a little down and out, you look at the picture of Krishna and all your woes will evaporate. Remember, you're looking at Krishna's beautiful form, nothing else really matters in this world. One sannyasi one time said something very nice. He said, imagine the most difficult situation you could ever be in your life. The most troublesome situation. Some people may say, well, maybe if all my money is taken away. Someone said, maybe if I get a life-threatening illness or some near and dear one passes away. Whatever may be the most horrible thing that could happen to anyone. So he said, remember, even at that time, Krishna is still playing the flute. Krishna is still grazing the cows. Krishna is still the eternal, blissful, spiritual youth living in Vrindavan, performing pastimes with the gopis. Just focus your meditation on that. And all your miseries will evaporate. So always keep yourself surrounded by pictures of Krishna and by the sound of Krishna's names and his pastimes. And misery will not touch you. Agreed? Is it a good proposal?
Yes.
Okay. So, then he says, Namo Deva Damodarananda Vishnu Prasida Prabho Dukkha Jalabhi Magnam. Namo Deva, Namaha, again. O Lord Deva, O Damodar, O Ananta, O Vishnu, Prasida, please give me your mercy, O my Lord. Dukkha Jalabhi Magnam. Because I'm immersed. Abdi means ocean. And I'm sinking in an ocean of misery in this material world. Kripa drishti vrishtyati dinam batano. So please deliver this deen, this fallen person, by showering vrishtyati, rain of your merciful glance, kripa drishti, upon me. Grihanesha mamabhyam yakshi drishya. And please become visible to my eyes. So the darshan of the Lord is meaningful only when there is devotion. As Krishna told the gopis when they came running to him after hearing his flute song on the night of Sharad Purnima, go back, my dear gopis, because more important than seeing me is to serve me by hearing about me, chanting about me, meditating on me, seeing my deity form in the temple, etc. When you do all these things, you will develop love for me. And when your love has sufficiently developed, then I will appear myself before you and you will be able to see me as I am. So whilst in one sense we should be eager to have the Lord's darshan, in another sense we should bide our time. We should know it is more important to serve Krishna and please him than to see him. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur would say, don't be so impatient to see Krishna. Serve Krishna so nicely that he will be eager to see you. Rather than you wanting to see Krishna, let Krishna be eager to come and see you. Well, who is this wonderful devotee of mine who is serving me so nicely? Let me go and take a look and see me. Where does this devotee stay? Okay, yes. That is the perfection of our life. When we go to the temple, we go to see Krishna, right? Don't we?
Yes.
Many of you are not replying.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
But there's also another reason why you go to the temple. To let Krishna see you. Krishna also waiting, imagine. He's waiting, no devotee is coming. He's standing there playing the flute, so patiently waiting on the altar. And nobody is coming to see me. Krishna says, so is it nice? So Krishna also feels very happy when devotees come to take his darshan. He also wants to see his devotees. Krishna is not a lonely God. Krishna is always with devotees. You'll never see a picture of Krishna alone. He'll be with the cows, or with the peacocks, or with the gopis, or with the cowherd boys, or the Yashoda, etc. So we go to the temple also to let Krishna see us. So Krishna feels happy seeing his devotees. So here, Akshi Drishyaha, please become visible to my eyes. What do we sing when we glorify Lord Jagannath? Jagannath Swami, Nayana Pathagami, Bhavatu Me. Oh Lord Jagannath, please come in the path of my vision. Jagannath Swami, Nayana Patha. Patha means road. Nayana means eyes. Gami, come. Please come appear on the line of eyesight. It's a poetic way of saying, please make yourself visible to me. Let me have your darshan. So here also he's saying, Akshidrishya, please become visible to my eyes. It needs spiritual eyes to see Krishna, keep in mind. With material eyes we cannot see. Kuveratmajo baddha murtya vayadvat tvaya mochitau bhakti bhajo kritaucha tatha prema bhaktim svakamne prayacha namokshe graho mesti Damodarastakam. Kuver Atmajo. Kuber was the treasurer of the demigods, or rather is. Atmajo. Atmaja means the son. Jo means to be born, Atma means self. So one is born from oneself is the son. And Jo indicates the dual case, the two sons. So Kuver, Atmajo, what were their names? Nalakuver and Manigriva. So these two young men were engaged in inappropriate acts in the heavenly planets. And when the saint Narad Muni came along, the ladies, they kind of covered themselves out of shame, but Nalakuvar Manigriva was somewhat in a different frame of mind. So they didn't do that. So Narad Muni felt, oh, these people are so fallen, they are so forgetful of their real position. They don't even know how to behave and dress in front of a saint, of a devotee of the Lord. They have lost their good intelligence. So then he cursed them. Because according to the law of karma, according to the way you behave and act in this life, you get a birth in the next life. You eat a lot of meat, you get born as a tiger or something like that, right? You like to sleep a lot, you become a bear in the next life. If someone likes to expose the body, they become a tree in the next life. So because they were without clothes, Nalakuvar and Manigriva, he blessed them, he cursed them that they will become trees in the next life. But actually, for a devotee of the Lord, when he curses, it's always a blessing. Blessings from non-devotees can be curses. But curses from devotees are always blessings. Because a pure devotee will never do anything or say anything that is for somebody's harm. He will always do something that is for our welfare. So even if a pure devotee curses somebody, we should know it is for the well-being of that person. So Nalakuvar and Manigriva begged forgiveness, and the Lord said, yes, And Narad Muni said, yes, when the time comes, you will take birth as trees in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj in Vrindavan. And Krishna will come. He will pull the grinding mortar. And even though he's tied, it is said here, Baddha Murti. So Krishna was tied to the grinding mortar. But he pulled the grinding mortar, which was very heavy actually. And a normal child would certainly not have been able to pull it. And it got stuck between the two Yamalarjuna trees. And with a little tug, the two trees, gigantic trees, fell down with a thud. Loud noise. It shook up the whole earth. And everybody in Vrindavan, they heard this noise and they came running, wondering what had happened. And they saw baby Krishna happily sitting in the midst of these two huge trees that had fallen down. And there had been no inkling, no indication of any storm or any wind. And why on earth would these two big trees suddenly fall down like that? They could not understand the reason for it. And they asked some of the other children who were playing there. And they said, yes, actually Krishna pulled the grinding mortar and got stuck between the trees and he heaved. And the two trees fell down. And then these two golden personalities emerged from the trees. They were actually Nalakuvar and Manigriva, who had been restored to their original heavenly forms. And they came in front of Krishna with folded hands and glorified him. And they asked him for prema bhakti, which is also mentioned. Tatha prema bhakti svakame prayacha. Namokshe graho mesti Damodarastakam. So they asked for prema bhakti and Krishna gave it to them. The highest benediction we can ever ask for or receive. So all this was going on. These little boys, the cowherd boys, were very young, just like Krishna's age. They were watching all this in amazement. They didn't realize what's going on. Who are these personalities coming? So when the elders came and they said, what happened? What happened? So they said, this is what happened. These golden personalities emerged from the trees. And who would believe such a story? Imagine if your children did some mischief like this and they uprooted a tree and then the child said actually a golden form came from inside the tree. Would you believe the child? You will see, these just children, childish, blabbard, they're just simply talking rubbish. So none of the Brajabasis believed the children, but what the children were saying was true. So Satyavrat Muni understands it is true. So he is now glorifying the good fortune of Kuver Atmajo, of the two sons of Kuvera. Kuver Atmajo, Baddha Murtyeva Yadvat, Vaya Mochito Bhakti Bhajam Pritaucha. O Lord Damodar, just as the two sons of Kuver, Manigriva and Nalakuva were delivered from the curse of Narada and made into great devotees by you, in your form as a baby tied with a rope to a wooden grinding mortar, in the same way, please give to me your own prema bhakti. I only long for this and have no desire for any kind of liberation. This is the standard of a true devotee of the Lord. You can understand the consciousness of a person or that person's stature in spiritual life by understanding what kind of prayers he or she offers to the Lord. If someone goes there and says, my dear Lord, please give me money, dhanam dehi, give me money, rupam dehi, please give me physical beauty, padam dehi, give me a high position, let me be the president or the king or something, then there's one level of consciousness. Moksham dehi, give me liberation. But Satyavrat Muni is telling us what the true standard of devotional service is. We only ask for pure love for Krishna. Prema Bhakti, that is our ultimate goal of life, and that's the only thing we should be asking Krishna for. So these prayers are very important for us because not only are many devotional aspects of Krishna's pastimes revealed, but even deep philosophical truths are also revealed through these prayers. And finally, the last verse. Namastestu Damne Spurat Dikti Dhamne, Tvadiyodarayat Vishwasya Dhamne. Namaste Astu Damne. What is Dam? Sorry before? Rope. So now Satyavrat Muni says, I offer my respect to that rope. Rope Prabhu. I offer my respects to you. But this rope is not an ordinary rope. It's the rope that has actually tied Krishna's belly. Actually, in the spiritual world, everything is conscious. Yes? The air, the water, the trees, the plants, the ropes, the utensils, everything is conscious. Krishna's clothes, ornaments, bed, everything is conscious. So the rope is conscious, it's a spiritual entity. And is very effulgent. So Satyavrat Muni is appreciating the great fortune of this rope, who was able to contact Krishna's transcendental form like this. And then he offers obeisances to Krishna's belly. Because that belly is the abode of the entire Vishwasya Dhamne. Vishwa, the whole universe, Dham, it is the abode. Krishna's belly is the abode of the entire universe. There is this pastime of Markandeya Rishi in the 12th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, when he wants to see the Maya Shakti of the Lord. And the Lord smiles as if to say, well, don't blame me afterwards, Markandeya. And then he finds himself in the Pralaya, the universal waters of destruction. And he's floating there, swimming for eons and eons together, ages together. And he doesn't die, he doesn't drown, he's just afloat in that water. And one day, in the distance, he sees something very astonishing. There is a little leaf there, a leaf from a banyan tree, and there is a baby there who is colored like a fresh monsoon cloud, and the baby is sucking his own toe. And he is a very attractive, beautiful child. And Markandeya Rishi goes up to embrace this child. And as soon as he does so, the baby breathes in. And Markandeya Rishi enters through his nostrils and goes inside his body. And inside his body, he sees the entire universe. And then again, when the baby exhales, he comes out. And he finds himself back in his ashram again. So Krishna had exhibited his Maya Shakti like that. So the whole universe is within his belly. When Mother Devaki has Krishna within her womb, in the jail of Kamsa in Mathura, all the demigods came to offer their prayers to her. And they were circumambulating her because they knew that within her was Krishna. And they are praying, how astonishing it is, even Mother Devaki prays, that my dear Lord, you, within whose womb, within whose belly reside the entire creation, now is within my belly. That personality in whose belly the entire universe resides, now is appearing within the belly of Mother Devaki. How astonishing it is. Even Mother Devaki is not able to comprehend this. So Satyavrat Muni offers obeisances to that rope, and then to Krishna's belly, and then finally Namo Radhikayai Tvadiya Priyayai, to Srimati Radharani, who is very dear to Krishna. And to you, the Supreme Lord, Namo Ananta Leela. Another name of Krishna is Ananta Leela because he displays unlimited pastimes. O Lord Damodar, I first of all offer my obeisances to the brilliantly effulgent rope which binds your belly. I then offer my obeisances to your belly, which is the abode of the entire universe. I humbly bow down to your most beloved Srimati Radharani, and I offer all obeisances to you, the Supreme Lord, who displays unlimited pastimes. So in this way, Satyavrat Muni concludes his Damodarastakam. Shri Damodarastakam ki jai, Shri Damodar Leela ki jai. Shri Radha Damodar ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Gaur Premanande. Sorry, I have taken quite a bit of time. Thank you for your patient hearing. Hare Krishna. What is the time now? 12:30? So I've gone way beyond time. Okay. Anyways, Kartik month, so it's all right. It's a holiday. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj, for such an enlightening and beautiful class. Thank you very much. So the next program is after this very important program is to offer a ghee lamp to the Lord Damodar, and then the most important program is to have prasadam. So I would request devotees to kindly make a queue here and then start offering the lamp to the Lord. And a couple of devotees out here, they will be helping you out. And there was some announcement about the programs. Asim Prabhu will come and he'll make the announcement. May I request Yuresh Prabhu, Darshvin Prabhu and Shailendra Prabhu to please come at the end of the tent so we can start distributing the shop.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Just an announcement in terms of Maharaji's next programs. So this evening, Maharaji is hosting a program at Macquarie Fields Public School. It's a wonderful topic Maharaji has chosen, the art of surrender, based on the pastimes of Vaman Dev and Bali Maharaj. So that's from 5 till 8. Tomorrow, Sunday feast class in the temple, 11:30. Given it's Srila Prabhupada's disappearance day, so Maharaji will be speaking on remembering Srila Prabhupada. And then tomorrow afternoon from 4 to 7, there is a program at Indira Mataji's place, which is not too far from here, in North Kellyville. And again, it's a wonderful topic there, from ritual to spiritual. There are other programs during the course of next week, but the marquee event is next Sunday. So that's next Sunday from 3:30 to 6:30 at Sydney Olympic Park. We've got an outdoor program. It is an open program, so please call your family and friends. And again, it's a wonderful topic that Maharaj has chosen. Free will, destiny and divinity, the factors that shape us. So that is next Sunday, 18th November from 3:30 to 6:30. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Yeah. I request devotees to kindly queue up here and then we'll start offering the lamp. First, I may request Guru Maharaj to kindly offer the lamp and then we can proceed for lamp prasad. Thank you.
Guru